Clinton sighed heavily as he stepped into his home, tossing his car keys onto the glass table near the entrance. He loosened his tie and rolled his shoulders, feeling the weight of the day settle on him. The first thing he noticed was the clutter. Shoes were scattered near the couch, a few used coffee mugs sat on the table, and a pile of laundry had found a new home on the armchair.
He closed his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply to keep his temper in check. "Nellie," he called, walking toward the living room.
His wife Nellie was curled up on the couch, the television remote in one hand and her phone in the other. The glow of the screen flickered against her face, but she didn't look up. A bowl of half-eaten popcorn rested beside her.
"Nellie, didn't we talk about this?" Clinton gestured at the disorganized room. "I come home from work, and the house looks like this?"
Nellie finally glanced at him, her face blank. "What's your point?" she asked, returning her focus to the television. Clinton scoffed. "My point? Look around. The house is a mess, Nellie. What do you even do all day?" Nellie's eyes flickered with irritation. She sat up straight. "Excuse me?"
"You heard me," Clinton said, rubbing his temples. "Every day it's the same thing. I come home to chaos, and you act like you don't care." Nellie folded her arms. "So now I'm supposed to be a housemaid?" "No, but..." Clinton took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I work all day, Nellie. The least you could do is make sure the house is in order, or at least cook dinner for both of us."
Nellie scoffed and turned back to her show. "I was too tired to cook. Just order takeout. Why do you complain so much?"
Clinton let out a short, humorless laugh. "Too tired? From what exactly? What would you do when we have kids?"
Nellie turned to face him, eyes narrowing. "You don't get to ask me that, Clinton. Just because I don't go to an office doesn't mean I do nothing."
"Then what did you do today?" Clinton challenged. Silence. Nellie looked at him with pure defiance, refusing to answer. "See?" Clinton threw up his hands. "This is becoming a pattern, Nellie. I come home, the house is a mess, there's no food, and you act like you're the victim."
"Because I refuse to be turned into a servant?" Nellie snapped. "This is my house too, Clinton. You don't get to dictate what I do."
Clinton exhaled sharply. "You know what? Forget it. I'll get my own food." He grabbed his keys and stormed out before she could respond.
The door slammed behind him, rattling the picture frames on the wall. Nellie exhaled loudly and muttered under her breath, "Drama king." She reached for her phone, texting him casually, "Get me something too. I'm starving." Then she went back to watching her show.
Clinton read the text while waiting for his order at the fast food counter. He clenched his jaw. Unbelievable. After all that, she had the nerve to ask him to get her food? His first instinct was to ignore her message, but after a moment, he sighed and ordered an extra meal. As much as she frustrated him, he still loved her, and he couldn't just let her go hungry.
As he stepped out, a familiar voice called his name. "Clinton." He turned and saw a woman standing near the parking lot, his brows furrowed as recognition dawned. "Sandra?" he asked, surprised. Sandra's face lit up with a smile. "I thought that was you." She looked almost the same as he remembered, elegant and effortlessly beautiful.
Her long hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her deep brown eyes sparkled under the streetlights. "Wow, what are you doing here?" Clinton asked, walking toward her.
"Just grabbing something to eat," she said. "And you?" She glanced at the takeout bags in his hand. "Fast food for dinner? Married man?" Clinton hesitated for a second, then forced a smile. "Yeah. Didn't want my wife to stress about cooking." Sandra raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "That's sweet of you." Clinton chuckled, though it felt forced. "So, how have you been?" "It's been years." Sandra sighed. "Yeah, it has. Life happened, I guess. Just recently separated from my husband." Clinton's expression softened. I'm sorry to hear that. Sandra shrugged. It is what it is. Clinton glanced at his car. Where do you live these days? Need a ride? Sandra hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Yeah, that'd be nice. In the car, Sandra leaned back in the passenger seat, studying Clinton as he drove. So tell me, is married life everything you expected?
Clinton chuckled, shaking his head. Depends on the day. Sandra smirked. That bad, huh? Clinton chose his words carefully. Marriage has its challenges.
Some days are great, some not so much. Sandra nodded. I get it. My marriage started feeling like a battlefield toward the end. We kept fighting over the smallest things. Clinton shot her a sideways glance. What happened? Sandra sighed. We just stopped trying, stopped listening to each other. I realized I was fighting for something that wasn't there anymore. A beat of silence passed between them. Clinton tightened his grip on the steering wheel. You ever look back and wonder, what if? Sandra asked softly.
Clinton glanced at her, her expression unreadable. He swallowed. Sometimes. They arrived at Sandra's apartment, and she unbuckled her seatbelt. Thanks for the ride. No problem.
Sandra hesitated before stepping out. You know, back in university, I always thought we'd end up together. Clinton felt his chest tighten. He met her gaze but didn't say anything. Sandra gave him a small smile and stepped out of the car, disappearing into her building. Clinton sat there for a moment, exhaling slowly before pulling away.
Back home, Nellie was still watching TV when Clinton walked in. She barely glanced at him. You got my food? Clinton placed the takeout bag on the table. Yeah, thanks, she muttered, grabbing it. No apology, no acknowledgement of their argument, just indifference. Clinton sat on the couch, rubbing his temples.
The house felt colder than ever, and for the first time, he wondered how long he could keep pretending everything was fine. As he sat there, in the dimly lit room, the weight of the evening pressed down on him. He could hear the faint hum of the television, Nellie flipping through channels as if nothing had happened. Clinton stared at the takeout bag in front of him, suddenly losing his appetite. His phone buzzed. He hesitated before picking it up, his heart pounding slightly when he saw the name on the screen. It was Sandra. Sandra texting. Hey, thanks again for the ride. It was nice catching up. Hope you have a good night. Clinton exhaled slowly, fingers hovering over the keyboard. A part of him wanted to ignore the message. Another part wanted to reply. He glanced toward Nellie, who hadn't even acknowledged his presence beyond taking the food.
Before he could think too much, his fingers moved on their own. Yeah, it was good seeing you too. Take care.
He hit send, staring at the screen for a moment before setting the phone aside. He looked at Nellie again, hoping she would say something, anything that would make him feel like this marriage was still worth fighting for. But she didn't, and that silence spoke louder than words.